get your books. Read your book. Read a book by a black woman, book by a black, read a book by a black woman. Peace, y'all. I am Jessica Raquel, aka Brown Sugar, and welcome to the bakery. If you are new, what's good? I'm so glad you walked in. Have a seat, join us. If you are returning, giving you hugs, giving you kisses, because welcome on back to the bakery. Why do we call it the bakery? Y'all already know. It's because some stuff is for you and some stuff just ain't for you. But that doesn't mean that you can't box it up and repost it, share it with a friend, send a link to somebody who may be able to use it, eat it, enjoy it, and love it. Right? Right. So if you didn't know, which kind of spooky if you didn't know, but it's Women's History Month in March, even though March is almost up. And I figured, you know what, it's my day off. I'm feeling vibey. I'm gonna put on a little lipstick and a little eyebrow, child. Let's talk about some of my favorite books. I say some because I have so many. Of my favorite books by not just women authors, but black women authors. So let's get it. Let's talk about her. Let's talk about her. Letters to a Young Artist by Anna Devere Smith. I got this book. Dang, I wish I would have written the date in here. I want to start doing that, writing like the date in books so I can remember when I got them. Y'all, okay. So I just opened up my book and found note cards with, wow, it was little like nuggets of like affirmation. Alert. A part of presence is being alert, but presence is not just about being pretty. Presence is your ability to be present. Okay, I'm curious to like read about that. Real self-esteem is an integration of an inner value with things in the world around you. It's about your self-worth. Be strong, be new, be you. That was self-esteem. Yeah. Okay, we'll come back to that. So, Letters to a Young Artist. If you are a bookworm like me, what's good? If you are afraid of being a bookworm, you're kind of intimidated, you're like, I don't really like books. I don't really like reading. I feel you and I hear you. Listen, I've just as recent, maybe the past 4 years, because we're in 2025 now, have just gotten back into the discipline of book reading, because I used to love reading books when I was younger. I used to love writing books, like writing book covers, drawing book covers. That's all I did. And once you get into like your studies and like matriculation and, you know, okay, you have your degree and you blah, 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 it can kind of put a distance between yourself and like reading at leisure. So after graduating from the Florida A&M University, I kind of fell off reading for a little bit. And that, ironically, was the same time that I went through a bit of a post-college depression. So it was just a lot going on, child. But then, of course, from that emerged my blog, Brown Sugar Said It, which now has turned into a podcast. And we have an Instagram page because your girl is back. I'm trying. I always say I'm back because I always go on hiatuses for whatever reason. Anywho, what I loved is that in the midst of whatever, God put this book in my view and aligned me with it. And honey, I've been writing notes in it ever since. Ever since. I feel like this book was brought to me as a suggestion by my professor, KK Harden. I feel like she like sprinkled the idea of me getting this book. And then God like further confirmed, like, yeah, that's what I want you to read. So I did just that. And as you can see, I have page numbers, right? Don't be in my business too much. I have sticky notes because I remember when I was a seamstress and sometimes I didn't have like Post-it notes. So this was like a tag from clothing. And I taped it in the book. Yo, like there's so many things. Like I was legit taking notes in this book. And I think I'm going to read it again. Why not? What I loved about this book is that it wasn't simply written on the basis of creating for monetary gain, or creating for success, creating for like notoriety. It's really just written on the basis of creating with discipline, with understanding your identity and your self-worth and your self-esteem, with understanding some logistics that come with being like a professional artist. But it's just so functional, it's so real, and it's so organic. Like, there's sections that talk about the specific things that you would need to understand as a young artist or as just an emerging artist, because youth isn't just specific to age, it's specific to like where you are, you know. So like there's just so many things, like discipline. I just flipped past that chapter. There's trust, another one. Even like I think it talks a bit about like oppression and like oppressive structures, and yeah, we've like referred to them under the guise of the man and this is the man's fault, blah blah blah. But then she dives into that more for us to understand what exactly we are up against, so we can dismantle it and move past it, move through it, and get to that good stuff. Like, where's that section at? Working. That's the wrong chapter, but y'all get what I'm saying. So if you're looking for a book that will feed you as, yes, a creative doggone crows. Anyway, if you are looking for a book that will feed you mentally and creatively, Letters to a Young Artist. It's so good, it's so timeless that I just found this to do this video, and I'm definitely gonna crack this open again today. Like probably after I go work out, I'll be pulling this out and starting from the beginning as if I haven't read it before, because that's what we do. So she also, well, we'll get back into that later on. The next book, let me put my little note cards in here. And okay, I'm sorry, I'm a bit of a bunny rabbit. I like to hop around, but I promise I come back to my initial thought. But real quick, do y'all see how I've taken notes and how I've put little tabbies like throughout the book? It is totally okay to do that. Not saying that anyone ever said like it's not okay. I know we say don't do the little bunny rabbit thing on your books, don't bend the spine, you know, stuff like that. So no, I don't think anybody has outright said don't mark up your book, but I just want to affirm anyone who may be curious about marking up their book and they aren't quite sure if they should do it. You bought it, it's yours, so mark it up, take notes. For me, that's how I know a book is really lived in. Like, you know how interior designers sometimes, you know, when they like break down different like living room spaces and bedrooms and whatever, I watch a lot of Homeworthy and a lot of like, what is it? Architectural Digest, 80. So love that stuff. And what I love is when designers highlight the fact that something is lived in. So babe, if you want your book to have more of an aesthetically pleasing feel to it, live in it. Don't just have it sitting on the table. Don't just keep it pretty. It looks prettier when you mark it up, when you fill it up. So yeah, for the people who are a little, you know, aren't really sure if they should be marking up them books, go ahead and mark that book up. Because, fun fact, I actually gave one of my books to a friend, and I prefaced it by saying, you know, it is a bit marked up and it's gonna have my notes in it, and that's okay. Which brings me, segue, to Fervent. This book, Fervent, is it Fervent Prayer? No, Fervent, A Woman's Battle Plan for Serious, Specific, and Strategic Prayer by Priscilla Shirer. What's so awesome about this book, you can't really see at the bottom, but I thrifted her, and she came with a bit of notes already. Like, where is it at? Okay, well, some of that's mine. It is kind of hard to tell which ones are mine and which one. Okay, so like right here, that's not my handwriting. Did I read it? Of course. These are my notes. So even if you, as long as you don't put anything like incriminating or something that's super personal and specific to you that could like put you in danger, I don't know. I wouldn't put that in the book if you know you might be passing it down to someone eventually. But honey, if you are just writing like your take on stuff, your own little breakdown and nuggets, you better mark that thing up, get you some highlighters and some, mark it up. Mark it up. And that's what I want to encourage y'all to do because Fervent. So we spoke about mental, creative health, spiritual health all day. Like the way she breaks down strategies for prayer, even if you are someone who is kind of like in between spaces, as far as your faith goes or your religious practices or whoever you believe in. For me, I believe in God. Y'all already know Yeshua, Yahweh. Like I talk about Jesus all day. So this book helped me with putting my verbiage when I do pray, when I do offer things to God in a way that is strategic and makes sense of what I'm asking for. Because that kind of came up a bit was like, you know, what's that saying? Oh, it's a great like cute little antidote. It's like the guy was in a boat. No. Wait. There was somebody like stranded in the water. Bear with me. And he was like, God, please save me. And so I think it's like a boat came by and he was like, nah, it's cool, God gonna save me. And then I don't know, something else came by. He was like, nah, it's cool, God gonna save me. And then when he gets to heaven, he's like, Lord, why didn't you save me? And then God's like, I sent you a boat. I sent you da 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 da. Okay. So I bring up that cute little antidote to say that sometimes, especially for me, I would pray about something and it would be so broad. And in my head, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm being so specific right now. Look, the Lord knows what I want. Yes, God knows the desires of your heart, but it's still best practice to name the things, not just for God, but for you. Like sometimes you got to hear just what the heck you were asking for. Cause maybe if you say it out loud, you might realize maybe I don't really want this, like, I don't know. So Fervent, great for like if you're someone who doesn't really know how to pray or how to meditate, because some of these things can be written as prayers, but then they also, after praying on it, if you need something to help guide you as you meditate, and you're like me and sometimes you can get a little bit distracted while meditating, you could choose one of these fervent like strategies and then just like kind of repeat them to yourself and have that thought process while you sit still and you sit in the serenity of that stillness. So it's beautiful. It's beautiful. There's hella scriptures in here, which I love. Like so many powerful words that you can speak light and speak life back into yourself, because there are so many things that want to steal our joy, that want to steal our peace of mind, that want to steal our confidence. So it's like in this, let's say you're reading this, right? And you're being fed creatively, you're being fed mentally. Anna reveals something regarding self-esteem, and you're like, wow, I really want to meditate and let the idea of self-esteem versus confidence like permeate and incubate in my mind. But dang, I feel like every time I sit down to do so, I've got all this negative self-talk clouding my mind, all of these intrusive thoughts clouding my mind. I need something to balance me so that I can sit in what I've read with this. Baby Fervent. She even included some cards in the back for you to go ahead and jot them little prayers on, okay? So these two can definitely go hand in hand. And then when you're, feeling great about that, and like, let's say this is a lot of stimulation, a lot of reading, a lot of note taking, and you just want something to feed you like a little protein bar. Deja, never met you, but let me tell you something. You did your big one with this right here. Come home to yourself. First of all, this is the same place I got this ring from. It's I think Souk Bohemian in Atlanta in Ponce City Market. Upstairs, right before you get to like that rooftop access to the Beltline and all that. Baby. Now I'm not gonna hold you. This book was $30. And I'm a bit of a budget bookworm, so when I tell you I splurged on this, I was feeling good. I had just got paid, so I was kind of like, okay, I can spend a little coin. So I got this ring, this one, and then I got this book. Kid you not, walked out with the book, started reading it on my walk because I think I left work that day because I used to work in the city in Midtown. Yeah, I think I started reading this like literally on my walk because it is so good. What I love about the structure of this book is everything is written in like concise bites. So it's like you read a segment, you can sit with that segment and not have to read the second piece in order for the first piece to make sense. All of these things can live separate from each other, but then they also work so well together. I love that about this book. Like, for example, the seeds you plant will always become fruitful with time. That could be an affirmation. What's right next to it is, remember, not only are you learning lessons from the people you experience, but the people you experience are learning lessons through you. The universe uses relationships to heal us, to teach us, to grow us into who we're destined to be. For me, I like to replace the universe with God. So I know that God is using relationships to heal me, to teach me, and to grow me into what I am called to be, what I'm destined to be. But I love that this is, again, another multifunctional book. I love books that work on several different levels, both. And both of these can be broken down or they can be left as is. Like the conciseness of this statement, and yet it speaks volumes about sowing, about whether or not the soil is fertile enough for what you are trying to plant, about patience and waiting for them to come into fruition. Then, oh my God. And so she has it. She has split into 3 different sections, right? So you've got truth, you've got pain, you've got abundance. Truth was so honest and so real that while I was reading this book on the train, like there were moments I would just sit. And I've done this with these books as well. You know, a book is good when you've just sat and you just put your finger on it and you just wait. Because it's just like, it's just so good. Either it's right on time, or it gets you together, or it stumps you and you're like, wait a minute, what does this mean? How do I process this? Truth. And then I said, okay. Truth took a few of my edges. We're gonna slick down what we got left. Truth took something. That wasn't enough. Pain came right after it, but it was like truth set the tone for pain. And then once truth and pain just kind of like, so God rest her soul, my granny. One thing I love about my granny is she may like make fun of you and roast you and kick you with you, but she also gonna be the same one to pour back into you and let you know how wonderful you are. And this book basically took that granny approach. It will tear you down in a sense, like tear down any walls you may have, like, come on, let's sit down and let's get real. And then once you get real with me, okay, now I can talk to you. Okay, now that I'm talking to you, yeah, it hurts a little bit. I got more to say. Okay, are you done now? Wipe your tears, get the Kleenex. Yeah, I know I read you for filth a few times. Okay, you said your 2 cents. Now guess what? Let's talk about a promise for your life. Let's talk about the abundance you have access to. And ain't God good that whilst reading this book and getting to the section of abundance, I was also starting to write the chapters scarcity and abundance in my book. Sorry. Reviewing them because I had print out the 3rd draft of my manuscript while I was reading this book. And so I'm reading abundance and I'm like, wow, this really aligns with what I'm saying in my book. Wow, abundance. The concept of abundance really is like a unifying concept. Like if more of us got on this wavelength of rebuking scarcity and all of its weapons and all of its destruction and all of its hate and anger that comes from believing heavily, perpetuating heavily and religiously the idea of scarcity, like just removing all that as much as we can, because I know we are in this world, though we're not of this world, and just really welcoming in like all that abundance as a concept has to offer. It's just so good. God is in abundance, period. So if you're trying to strengthen your relationship with God, I'm gonna let you know now, abundance. And abundance doesn't just look like prosperity in like a monetary sense. Please, let's stop. That's my last rabbit hole for now. But like, let's stop reducing God to make it something lucrative. Okay, he could God could do that in his sleep. Now what? Now I'm not gonna lie, like a little hundred K right now would be great, but I'm not about to get on my knees and ask the Lord for 100K when I know that He could give me the opportunity to align me with something that would sustain me far more than 100K would. So, okay, come home to yourself. Can't tell you how many folks I have told about this book. And like I said, it's so similar to these. This one I've read because I've taken a lot of notes in this. So maybe like 3 times through. This one I've so far only read 1.5 times through. I got to get back on the ball with this one. I like to read my nonfiction books more than once. I don't know, it's just something I do. And then my Come Home to Yourself, honey. It's been quite a few times. I've ran my laps on this book, specifically sections. Like I've ran laps around truth. So if you're looking for something that you don't want to take notes in, this is a great book for that. Because for whatever reason, I didn't want to take notes. I didn't want to have tabbies in it, because every time I read it differently, I pick up on something new. Something resonates with me in a different way than it did the first time. And instead of like trying to guide myself into the direction of interpretation that I should have based on the last time I read it, I say, you know what, blank pages, what are the words saying? How am I receiving it? And then finally, I really hope I'm not pronouncing her name wrong when I say Jane Igharo. Igharo. Ties that tether. This book made me feel so good that you better believe I went on Instagram and I DM'd the author and was like, thank you so much. And the reason I was so grateful, and I still am grateful, is this book low-key shadows my life right now, a bit. And I'm a person who reads nonfiction books way more often than I would read like a fiction book. Like if you held the two up in front of me and were like fiction or nonfiction, I'm gonna go nonfiction. Similar to like documentaries and movies, you might catch me on a documentary wave before I watch like the latest movie that came out, which is odd because for a majority of my life, like it's been centered around acting, like and being an actor. But I really have a love and a passion for documentaries. I don't know. But as an adult in this journey of like rekindling that love, that flame, and that discipline when it comes to avid book reading, I found that the reason why I gravitated towards nonfiction books so often is because I could at least justify them. Like, okay, I'm reading this nonfiction book because it's going to teach me about financial literacy. I'm reading this nonfiction book because it's teaching me about like prayer. It's teaching me about this. I'm learning about that. I'm educating myself. And I kind of felt like I didn't deserve to read. I didn't deserve to sit and take the time to look at pages and words if it's solely just for leisure. But I got out of that. And I said, you know what? It's 2025. I'm going to get me a fiction book and I am just going to read it because it feels good. Glad I did, because this book makes the protagonist, who is a beautiful young Black woman, so fabulous, so humanized, it's romantic. It's a bit fairy tale-ish, just a hint, but like, my goodness, why can't we have that? Why can't black women? That's another thing. I think in a lot of the nonfiction, the fiction books I've read in the past, the black women always have to go through something. They were always going through some kind of traumatic experience, some kind of like horrible heartache, being the friend that just got left out. And I'm gonna let you know now, were those books always written by black women? No. By somebody black in general? By a person of color? No. Were they even the main character? No. So, as I immersed myself more, especially in college, in more black authors and black playwrights, it was just like unlocking this part of my brain that didn't know that the black person, the black woman, can be the main character. The black woman can be the protagonist. And not to say that all antagonists are evil, because if you know like the breakdown between protagonist and antagonist, it's really just about who whose actions are driving the play, who are driving the plot, and whose actions or what actions are combating whatever is driving the plot. So like, sometimes the villain is the good guy, but because their actions are combating the good guy, the protagonist, the main character's efforts, we immediately say, oh no, he's evil. Oh no, he's wicked. Nah, child. The hero was wrong. The hero was wrong. So it just felt so good to like absorb the story of a young black woman who is seen as attractive and who has attracted the things that she deserves and that she wants. And the fact that the book ends on a, not spoiler alert, but it ends on a good note. It's pretty designs too. It ends on a good note. Of course I'm gonna celebrate this and like support her as an author. Are you kidding? This is what she looks like if y'all didn't know. And ate it up. The book was great. So if you're someone again like me who like has struggled with reading fiction books because you feel like you don't really deserve to, or you don't have the time to, that's just proof that you need to sit down and read you a fiction book and get into it. Find something that kind of fits the scenario you find yourself in currently. If you want something that like can show you that things get better, or if you want something that completely lets you escape, read you a little Octavia Butler. You want to get into like Afrofuturism. Read you some Pearl Clegg. Oh my God, I'll never forget when I went to Pearl Clegg's like writing workshop she did in undergrad. And she wrote in my journal, and my journal's somewhere in there packed up in like a very special place. And just hearing her talk about like her process in writing plays, specifically the play The Nakarima Society, which I was the lead in years ago. And she has this book. It's one of my favorite books that got me into like reading fiction again after I graduated was I Wish I Had a Red Dress. I Wish I Had a Red Dress. So yeah, get you some, and then if you're like looking into like, okay, I really want a good play to read, because plays are awesome to read, especially if you like to make up voices for different characters, and if you like to visualize different scenes. Oh my goodness. Dominique Morceau, Katori Hall. Shout out to Taylor J, one of my old classmates, and she was my frat sister, and she my four, and she's so dope. And she is very much sorry, I almost misspoke. No, she's an author. She has a book of poetry that she has written, several projects, and I'll put that information in the caption when I get a chance. So yeah, that's just my little silly way of saying, if you haven't supported you a black author, a black writer, a woman author, a woman's voice this month, it's not too late. it ain't too late. Especially if you want to support your girl and purchase either of my books. I have a book of poetry, Orange Painted Red, that I published in 2019, in the midst of that little depression I was going through. And then my most recent book, Per Chi, which means for whom, and that book is centered on like all the things that plague the creative person and keep us in a state of like, okay, I guess I just shouldn't move because I don't know what to let go of. What truly belongs to me? What is for me? For whom? All right, so let's do a cute little recap. We've got Anna Devere Smith's Letters to a Young Artist, a great book for, like I said, mental, creative health, for discipline, for understanding identity and self-worth, for understanding some of the logistics that come with working as a creative professional. Fervent by Priscilla Shirer. Come on now. We love us a good little spiritual book. We love us a good like prayer strategy because we already know the enemy be busy. I love a good little, Come Home to Yourself. Deja, a great protein shake. Everything's just packed in. You could read like 3 pages and it'll just sustain you for like a week. And then you just find your 3 more pages and you just read it. So good. So good. And then from our fiction fund, because it is okay to read books in your leisure, at your leisure, Ties the Tether by our good sis Jane. All right, y'all. If brown sugar said it, it must be word. I hope you enjoyed this different video. I'll try to do more things that kind of operate in this space instead of just, it being about some poems, even though I love poetry.